Welcome to Elite Broker, the podcast showcasing the leading players and stories of success from Australia's broking industry.
Hello and welcome back to Elite Broker. I hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. In this week's episode, we're catching up with one of the recent winners from the Better Business Awards 2023. If you came to the New South Wales ACT Awards back in March, you would have seen Anthony O'Flynn, the owner and senior mortgage advisor at IFA Mortgages, take home the Editor's Choice Award. So in this episode of Elite Broker, I've hauled Anthony into the studio to pick his brain about what makes him so great, why I think he is deserving of special recognition, and what he's got planned for the year ahead. So thank you, Anthony, for joining us. How are you going?
Thanks for inviting me, Annie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Well, we bullied you in because I dropped the bombshell of Editor's Choice Award on you at the Better Business Awards 2023, which was one in partnership with NAB earlier this year. And I always feel slightly guilty about it because it's one that you can't submit for. It's one that I just choose. I'm massively conflict of interest here. I just pick someone. But I think you've been doing a fantastic job with what you've been doing at IFA, and particularly in repricing your clients and making sure that they're aware of what's been going on in the changing interest rate environment, and proactively doing it without even being asked, which I think is amazing. So I really wanted to bring you in to the podcast today to get to share your story with a wider audience. Now, some people listening who are long-term listeners of the podcast might remember that you actually have been on the podcast. Well, let me start again. Now, long-term listeners of the podcast might actually remember your name because you came on to Elite Broker back in, I think, 2019, 2018, and you were joined by one of your junior brokers at the time, Luke Harben, who's still with IFA, but senior broker now.
Correct.
And you were talking a little bit about your mentor-mentee relationship and how you guys work together. But I think this episode, we're really focusing on you, Anthony O'Flynn, the man and the broker, to talk about, not only what you've been doing to help you build your business, but also what you have planned for the year ahead. But let's start off back at the beginning, cast our minds back to when you first became a broker. Origin story, please, Anthony. How and when did you become a broker?
As you know, Annie, I have a bit of grey hair. Have been in the banking institution for 36 years, the last 23 as a broker. With the banks, I was head of credit, but I started back as a junior clerk, as we all did when we were 17, straight out of school, and our fathers and mothers said you had to get a job and something secure. And my father's a teacher and he knew I wasn't going to become a teacher, so he said banking's the next best thing for you. So hopped along to the old State Bank in New South Wales back then and got a job. And from that point of time as a clerk, I was doing everything for everyone and ran around, and then progressively through the bank into a senior credit role with Colonial. And then Commonwealth Bank came along and took over third-party banking, which I just set up with Kathy Cummings, and she asked me to head it up for her. And we had a staff of 7 back then at the third-party banking channel to what it is today. It's amazing. But one of my senior managers at the point said to me, "You've got credit, great credit skills, you haven't got sales on your resume." He said, "Why don't you go out and get some sales through one of our channels?" And that was Colonial Partners at the point, which was primarily a financial planning company side of the Commonwealth Bank. And they wanted to get those gentlemen and ladies to write mortgages. And he said, "Why don't you go out and do some training with them and a sales role?" And of course, you had a budget attached to it. At that point of time, I went out and I really, really enjoyed it. And one of the groups that was under my control and I was educating was IFA. And they were primarily a financial planning company with something like 30 financial planners who wanted to get into the space. And at that point of time, the general manager said to me, "We'd like to set up a broker arm. Would you consider it?" And again, being 33 years of age, very nervous, married with one young child, I thought it was a big step, secure income. But I thought I've got to give it a go, and it's something I've always enjoyed. And from there, I started the IFA brand name in the mortgage space, and have grown from there.
That's amazing. And so, wow, I didn't even know that whole history with Kathy and CBA's third-party channel. That's exciting because they weren't always in the third-party distribution space, and it took them a while, I think, to get into it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I always remember Commonwealth Bank were umming and ahhing whether they would step into the space. They thought their brand name was didn't want to be really associated with the broker market. But eventually we got them on board and progressed from there. And it was a fantastic journey, and everything that I've gone through the banking industry has been amazing. It's always helped me then take the next step in my career.
Yeah, amazing. And so now you've got IFA Mortgages, which obviously does what it says on the tin, does mortgages.
Yes.
And your office is based out in Bondi.
Yes.
What sort of loans are you predominantly writing?
Predominantly we're doing residential, owner-occupied investment. I've got more involved in the self-managed super fund side with the financial planning arm. There's a few of those still around that we help day in, day out. We also do a bit of commercial. Again, that's more I like that and enjoy, and asset finance. And so primarily residential, but we're touching those other parts, and I'm trying to also mentor the younger ones coming through on those aspects. Diversification, I think, of the broking industry is very important in these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit about your mentoring side of things in a little bit later, but I want to kind of, I guess, keep going through your journey from banking to broking. So you decided to set up the IFA Mortgages arm, and at that point, did you have to choose your own aggregator and association? Did the IFA Financial Planning kind of recommend someone? How did you actually go about choosing someone to go with?
Yeah, that was a big step. I never knew what an aggregator was. When we're with third-party banking, I knew we had direct creditation, etc. But one of the gentlemen, a colleague of mine, said, "Oh, Fast is a good organisation," and really I knew nothing about it, who to go. I knew Plan, Fast were out there. I met Fast and sat down with our relationship manager, and from that point of time, they have been fantastic. I've had really good relationship managers on it. The actual commission split, the remuneration split, has been reasonable. They've looked after us incredibly well over that period of time.
Yeah, and of course now LMG.
LMG.
OMG, it's LMG.
Yes, and we jumped in on Tuesday with Greg Cook and started that journey with him, explaining, and it looks very exciting, that side of the business.
Early days, very exciting. And Fast obviously is a massive brand. For anyone listening would obviously know who they are, but I actually wrote a feature in the last edition about the history of Plan Choice and Fast because of the fact obviously they were retiring the brands, and I thought that was just like fascinating, seeing the whole progression and what they've done, and really now I guess mostly known as being sort of a commercial aggregation group as well, specialising in commercial.
And that's one of the things Fast has done for us, is open that up for us. And most of us there have been old bank managers, and they've opened that and asset finance up. So for me, it's always been a learning curve, and I love learning, and that's something Fast has helped me grow on the commercial side as well.
Love that. So what do you actually most like about being a broker? Obviously, you said you jumped in, you loved it, you ended up starting up the IFA Mortgages brand, but what do you most like about it?
I think the main thing is helping people achieve their goals and giving them direction. A lot of people that I talk to day in, day out know the answer, but they just need someone to come over and go, okay, if we go this way and take these steps, we'll get there. And I think the other thing that I like is people meeting their achievements, looking to get their first home and being able to help them and take that stress out of the whole process, because it's like anything. The first time is always stressful, and being able to take that stress and people be able to sleep at night and not worry about it, meet a settlement timeline, that's the most enjoyment. And then helping people then grow their portfolios.
Yeah, of course. And it must be very rewarding seeing people actually, buy their first home and move in, eventually have whatever family or, upsize to a bigger property and kind of continue along that journey with them.
I think the test has always been, and the most proudest point I've had, I think, is that I've done 3 generations of one family. So I've done the grandparents, the children, now the grandchildren. And to me, that was the biggest honour, and that only happened last year for me in my life of broking. I think, wow, you've helped 3 generations get into a property. I don't think I'll be around for the 4th, but...
Yeah, and so it wasn't that you did it all in one go. It was like as they got older and had more kids. Oh, that's lovely.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's so nice. Gosh, and you're kind of, giving your age away a little bit there as well by having 3 generations having been around that long. When it actually comes then to... When it comes to writing a loan and finding the business, obviously starting from scratch can be difficult. I imagine having the IFA brand behind you would have helped with financial planning and getting the mortgages done then, but how else did you get your first leads through the door?
You're exactly right. The financial planning was a great stepping stone, because the advisor who had the client had that relationship, which made that transition. But over the last 10 years, a lot of those financial planners have retired, and it has been something they've really had to push. A lot of our leads come from organically from within our client base, which we're very lucky to do that by good word of mouth, etc. We've also worked with a few accountants over the time, real estate agents, solicitors, but generally what we've done is relied on word of mouth. And I think you've got to provide that service, which is important in any position, to then grow the business into it. And that's how basically we've done it. We also like giving rewards to clients that refer business on, which tends to work for us as well. But over the life, I'd have to say that organically we've done it. We've never paid anyone for referring business to us. We give them a thank you card. But it's just, I bang into the people all the time that service is a critical part. And most of our clients are sitting in I used to say in our filing cabinets, but they're not sitting in our filing cabinets anymore. We don't have them.
Yeah.
But on our CRM. And our database is most important. We're constantly marking to them and going out to them as well.
So we're talking about the process now that you're following to get a loan written. I'm always curious to know how brokers actually get their loans settled, because it used to be relatively straightforward and now there's a bajillion steps you need to do. Can you walk me through what steps you have and what process you've put in place?
It's probably been my hardest learning curve and in the whole process is that I'm very much a control freak, and my wife will own up to that and agree with me on that. I hate delegating and I hate it. But what I've found is you just can't do that job anymore. You need a team around you, and every team member has a critical part of that journey for that client. The other thing what we're doing is I'm not scared to introduce my staff to my clients, and so they know that who's handling the file every point of time. Once upon a time, my phone would ring 60, 70, 80 times a day for clients, and I just couldn't get rid of the idea that how it had to work. So what I did, and I'm lucky that I had someone like Luke in the business who was coming along, young, technology is very strong, and we pulled the business apart. And from the day where, being a loans officer, we used to take the business all the way from the loan all the way through to settlement, I've understood that we've had to break that down, and that's what we've done quite successful. So the client will ring the broker, or myself in this case. We'll sit down, have a little conversation, and Zoom's been beautiful with that, being able to talk to clients, to get what they're understanding, what they're trying to do. Then from there, I have some of the younger staff sit down with me and build strategies. And again, this is part of mentoring, and I know you'll talk about that later. They'll put the presentation together. I will go back out to the client with a checklist of items that we need. And we're using all the new technologies out there, bank statements, Link, the CRA. We're using all those type of the Hello Pack, which is called on our CRM as the digital application form. All those we're using now, which is helping me and the staff do the job. Once the information comes back from the client, we have someone that's putting those deals together for us. And again, they're introduced to the customer and said, we're missing this piece of information, etc. They're also responsible then for processing it through to the lender that we're choosing at the point, which I think is very important, because again, they've got that contact, and if I'm not around for whatever reason, that client has the confidence to, or email one of the associates to be able to look at it. Then from there, with all the applications and the approval, again, that person would go out and also email that approval to the client. If there's any negative points, I never get the staff to ring. It's always my choice to do that, and I take responsibility of that. So if the client or the bank comes back or the lender comes back with a reduced loan amount or have a question about something, that's my responsibility. So I will jump in there and help them. Good news, our staff are happy to go out with that to solicitors and keep them informed. And then they will monitor it up to letters of offer. I always make sure that I'm selling the product, that I go through the terms, conditions, the letter of offer that the client has for it. So that way they can understand the product. Any questions, it's coming back to me because I'm recommending that lender and that product, and I'll be able to answer it. Then settlement comes along, and I've got a post-settlement team. And as soon as that settlement takes place, the post-settlement team will write a letter out to the client and introduce themselves as being able to the person to be able to help if they have any questions. All this time I'm copied in on the email, so I know what's going out to the client. It's all on our database as well. And then in 12 months' time, the clients do get a review.
Awesome. So there's a lot of different processes there. It sounds like you've got a few people helping you out along the way. How big is the team that you work with now?
Currently the team's sitting on 9.
9?
9. So we try and break it up that we have 3 in our retention area, because holding a client to us is much more important than trying to get, well, it's important as getting a new client, but retaining them is important. And with our trail commissions, one of the things I say to the client is we receive that to be able to service you. And I think it's really important that as a broker and wanting to maintain our trail through the industry, that we look after that aspect and provide that service to the client. And to me, having 3 staff we've got there doing that, our clients are constantly reviewed.
Yeah, and of course that's something that's been so important at the moment with the fixed rate cliff looming and refinancing being so competitive. I feel like a lot of people, if they're not doing it, they are finding that their clients are going elsewhere and trying to do it themselves.
We've even gone one step further. We've put on one person since Christmas and they've been in the team to try and get through all our portfolio, regardless whether we reviewed them 3-6 months ago. We're trying to touch base with every client, especially the ones with the fixed rates that are maturing this year from the 199s or the 204 interest rates. And what we're even doing is giving them suggestions and saying, okay, if your fixed rate rolls off today, what will your repayment be? And then trying to give them an idea to say, well, why don't you meet half that repayment next month, or make $100 extra payment and step it up. So when they get to that rollover position, they'll know what they're paying. And hopefully, if they take our advice, they're already meeting that repayment. So it's not such a big shock to the actual cash flow, the back pocket.
That is a fantastic idea. I really think that's a great idea. And actually, it makes me think I'm going to probably start doing that on my fixed rate too. They're like, oh, yeah, every time I look at the cash rate go up, I'm like, what's that going to be? What's that going to be? I've got some time, though. I've got some time before I need to start worrying about it too much. When you actually have your 3 settlement team as well, 3 people in the settlement, sorry. We've got 3 people in the post-settlement team. There we go, got it out. And yourself as the senior broker and Luke. So who are the remaining people in the team?
So we've got another young broker that's just coming through to replace one of our additional brokers. He's just finishing his course, his accreditation. I'm mentoring him into that. Then we've got 2 other people that are basically processors for the 3 of us, and we've got 1 strategy writer of it. Now, people say to me, oh, you got a lot of staff on, etc., but they're all learning a different part of the business, and I think that's the most important thing. So at any part of the time that if I'm not there, someone else can jump in, see where it's at, rather than just having one main person that someone's going to always go to.
Yeah, and of course that's such a big thing. If you want to go on holiday or if you need to take any time that you're actually able to, the company can still run without you necessarily there. Obviously not for too long, hopefully, but yeah, it can stand on its own 2 feet, which I think a lot of people are finding is so important, because burnout is a real thing. So having the support there to be able to help you, to have your clients also feel like they have somebody else to talk to.
That's exactly right. Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant. When you talk about some of the tools earlier about that you're using, is that tools that your aggregator provides you? Do you use anything outside of your aggregation group's tech to help you do what you do?
We use a lot of our Podium, which is our aggregators software, a lot of their technology that they do provide us. One of the things that we do, which is outside that, we use a 1-point to book, like an Excel spreadsheet. Each of the brokers have got one, and we break that up into leads, and we break it up into applications, and we break it up into exceptions. Whilst people say to me it's double handling, at any point of time, if a client jumps into us and does a referral, instead of putting the my CRM, we put it straight into the 1-point, and then the gentleman or lady that's doing the strategy, she will ask each of the brokers, what's the next one to do? And she can see a list of the strategies there. So we can then prioritise, if someone's got a purchase coming up that are keen, or a pre-approval or an auction, we can always say, do this strategy next for them. And then that way we can control the workflow. And the same with exceptions and settlements coming up. It just allows us, and whilst we've got the My CRM, they've got all those tools there, but it's just a quick, easy tool that we can all jump on at any point of time, and we have our staff discussions. That's the first tool we use.
Yeah, okay. And I guess as well, with moving on to a new CRM, you're still having to learn how that all works too, get your head around it.
Yeah, it's been one of the things that we've had to do. We moved from Island to Podium to My CRM in the last 10, 15 years. So we've jumped around a little bit. The aggregators, had to requested us to do that, but that's fine. But it's also trying to learn one process and also teach the staff each of that process.
Yeah, for sure. So you talked about obviously having the team and having the staff. At what point did you hire your first person? When was it that you realised you needed someone to come and help you?
Probably about
day one.
Probably wasn't day one. I'm very stubborn and very want to control everything myself. I think it was more after, I think it was when Luke was there first, and he'd see me walk in with a pile of files, and he said, when did you get all them done? When you left, you didn't have those, and all these files have to go in. I go, about 2 o'clock this morning. And it dawned on me at that point that Luke said, well, you can't keep doing this, and that's when we employed our first staff member or second staff member just to help with us. Again, always being conscious, being from the banking, all very tight and all the rest of it, and cash flow, etc. But I think I've learned out of it, if I can reflect back, is that you've got to spend money to make money. And I think the more people you have helping you and assisting and being productive, which is the main thing, it helps you have that bit of relief, and you don't feel that pressure on your shoulders every day of the week. You put your head on the pillow at night and you're not thinking about loan, what's settling tomorrow. You've got a process and you've got belief in the people around you to help you make that journey and the trip for the client, which is more important, as easy and as smooth as possible.
So how did you actually bring these people on? What did you look for? Did you have a test that you made them do, or were you looking for something in the interview? Like, how do you actually find the right people?
It's really funny, Annie. Most of them are word of mouth and people that we've met or go to school. And my theory of recruitment's a bit like when I was in the bank. We recruit at the bottom, generally speaking, and then you grow them. And I generally get the ones 18, 19 out of school that have got doing finance at university, work them on a part-time basis and start teaching them from the bottom. I mean, I don't believe, and again, I've been lucky enough to have some really good staff, that we don't need to put a broker in straight away. I'd rather train someone up. And there's a couple of points on that. One, that because we're lucky enough we grow a lot of organic leads, we don't have to automatically go out and buy leads. So we can bring them up and they can do the client retention, and then we slowly bring them. So one, they learn the clients, they learn about lending policies, they learn about serviceability, they learn the terminology, which is a lot of people and jargon that's in this industry is amazing.
So many acronyms.
Exactly right. and they start to learn that. So by the time they get into loan processing, after knowing clients and doing little top up for clients, they start to understand the process, and that then makes them into a better broker. We put them in the broking course then. So in the staff at the present time, I'm 57 years of age, if I had to give my age away, and the next youngest one is Luke at 30, and the rest of them, and the youngest is 18, straight out of school last year. So
keep you young.
Yeah, it does keep you young as well, and it keeps you excited, because technology to me is the way forward, and all these young people are so up to speed with technology, and we should do this and we should do that. It also gives a lot of energy in the office, which is what I love and you thrive off.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've nicked them out of school or university.
Yes.
Am I right in remembering that Luke was actually mates with your son?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's how you found him originally?
Yes, correctly.
Yeah. And so for the rest, it's sort of, did you look for then a cultural fit? So like maybe, do they have to be really good at tech, or do they have to have good energy? Like, what are you kind of looking for when you're actually thinking about the person rather than skills?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'm looking for a person that's happy to perform in a team, and then we're a team environment. The funny story about young Paul, who works for us, he came across, and Paul, no disrespect to you, very nerdy type of person. Going forward, everything was very computer orientated, etc. But over time, we've developed him, and he loves the team environment. He's now a critical part of the team, and he's developed. And I think that's part of the thing, is just little steps at the time, not giving him a lot of issues that they have, or a lot of things they've got to jump into, and just slowly introduce them in the process. As long as, to me, they turn up for work and they're regular, they enjoy being in a team, and they are happy to learn, then that's all the person. I'm happy to give anyone a go, because I think that's the most important thing. Coming out of school, when I remember myself, I was a shy person that, was very timid, etc. But I think through the experience of being in the banking and learning slowly the process, you grow in confidence. And once you have confidence, you can do anything. And that's what I say, nothing in this world's hard. It's being able to understand why you do something and not just do it because someone tells you to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I instill in all the staff.
And how do you then keep them, I suppose, happy? A big one at the moment, we've had the great resignation or whatever it is, been in the last few years with COVID. How do you retain staff and ensure that they're kind of going to stick around for the long haul?
We've only lost one staff in the last 10 years. And that one person who's gone overseas, who was another young person finishing uni in Germany this year, he's gone over. I think the culture. I make work fun. I give them a lot of their own. I don't micromanage anyone. It's always macro managing people. Give them their own little duties and remunerate them accordingly. We have little, targets in the office, and everyone's got a little budget they must hit, whether it's reviewing 10 clients a day, etc. And at the end of the day, everyone loves the money. And if we can remunerate someone just with something, if they hit their goals, it's a small thing, then they appreciate it. And they can see the big picture, and that's what we have. And we have a team goal as well. They each have individual, and then if the team meets its goal, they participate in that.
So is that like an event or sort of a day out?
Yeah, we do that. We've been hyper-karting. You know, we do a lot of social. We do lawn barefoot bowling. You know, all those type of things. And I think that creates the team environment. You know, I'm not scared to say to someone, we'll finish at 2 today, and we will go and do lawn bowls, because I think if you can give them that time and they enjoy what they do during that normal day, they'll put hours in for you. You know, and we don't have a lot of sick leave within our office. The only downside of having young people is everyone wants to go to Europe this year because they haven't been able to trade. So between now and October, I think we've got 6 people heading over to Europe.
Just take the whole business. You go as well. You might as well go. Exactly. Just start working European hours.
Exactly. And but, you know, to me, you reward them for what they do, and I think that's the most, and recognition is the important thing. And seeing a career path, I think that's also, they're just not set doing one job. They can see how they can step into the next path.
This is some great tips there, and I think, you know, it's great to hear that you, touch wood, haven't lost too many staff members and hopefully have a happy team. I do actually think when I saw you guys at the Better Business Awards, like, your team are probably the most smiley, happy bunch in the room. They were like loving life. But I also want to know, like, how you actually find the time then to manage all of this, because you're not only writing loans, but you're managing the team and training them up. It sounds like you're putting a lot of your own time investment into them. So how do you walk me through maybe, like, you know, how you've broken up your working week, or what your process is for actually finding the time to run the business and train and write loans and do everything you need to do?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a day for me that starts at probably 6:30. I like to be in the office first. Just to get through those emails, and at night I'll be sitting on the lounge doing a few emails, just trying to clear them for the day. But the thing is, I like to be there first when the staff walks in. A lot of people say, oh, that's control. But to me, if I got a smile on my face and I say, boys and girls, this is what we're doing today, and have a set plan for them. So the first thing that comes in is that we go through the emails with them. Twice a week we have a meeting about, I have one with Dylan, who's my process worker. He's got to get in at 8 o'clock, because I said once 9 o'clock's come and everyone else gets in there, they basically comes a bit of not a circus, but it's a bit more social. So twice a week he's in at 8 o'clock, and that's our time between him and myself to be able to think, where are we at with each of those loans?
Yeah.
Where are we heading for the rest of the week? Anything that's what we call a fire going somewhere we need to put out. So we work on that straight away. Then from there, every morning they will say, what's my priority of loans for the day and what I'm going to do. So we will look at what's in our schedule, in our pipeline of deals to be put in and strategies to be written, and they'll get those targets on them. So by the end of the day, they have an idea of what we need them to do for it. And that way, that allows me then to take calls during the day. And then again, if I take a call or lead, it goes straight into our online system, and then it gets prioritised for the next day for it. So I try to manage my day that way, and then at 5 o'clock every day I try, well, I shouldn't say every day, but a couple of times a week go to the gym and you know, get out of the office. And I encourage the guys to do that as well.
So if we think back to, I guess, you know, how you go from being a single operator to a broker that's got multiple members beneath you, you've got, you know, your process down pat. You obviously had to do lots of things along the way to get to where you are now. Is there anything that you would have done differently along your course of your broking career?
Probably delegate a little bit earlier and bring staff on. Probably that's the thing. I tried to run it all myself and manage the process myself, and you just can't do it in today's society. And it's got worse with compliance, etc. So to me, if I look back over those 23 years and say, what could I have done different? I think the main thing I could have done different is got some staff from help from the start. Probably be more up to speed with technology rather than the paper base, which I think a lot of people my age, where computers were not natural to us, we've had to learn the process, probably taken that on a little bit better. But overall, it's been a great journey on it for it. And I think the success these days is you've got to empower other people to help you. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yep. Love that. And I think, you know, looking at the sort of being a broker and business owner and a mentor as well, obviously takes a lot of time. How did you sort of figure out, you know, the process you walked us through earlier with, you know, setting these different meetings and things? How long did it take you to kind of figure all that out?
Yeah, it took a while. I'll be honest with you. Being stubborn again, it took a while. But it's one of those things that I know what I wanted as a value proposition for our clients, and from day one. And I think the important part I learned was when I started working with financial advisors, I saw their model. I looked at how we as traditional bankers were, that we saw the client, got the loan approved, the loan went to settlement, and that's all we do with the client. But a financial planner would review the client, and I thought that's a great process, as in repricing, talking to them about investment properties and the way they want to move forward with their strategies in life. That probably was the first thing that I ever thought, hey, I need to do that first. And that was where we invested the first staff into, is retaining our business. And as you know, the saying says, it's always easier to retain clients than get new clients. And I've adopted that from the financial planners have always, from day one, when I was at their conferences, would always say that. And that's something I thought, well, that's a fantastic idea. And as a mortgage broker, it's probably a niche that no one else does, that we back in those years wanted to do and started out that way.
Yeah, awesome. And obviously it's paid off. You know, you got very happy clients and lots of recognition for what you're doing with the repricing and trying to retain them.
Yep.
When you think about then the sort of challenges along the way as well, not for you as a broker, but the things that you face in industry that have been difficult, have you had any bugbears that you'd fix? If you were king for a day and could change something in the industry, what would you change?
Look, I think everyone knows the clawback is probably the most... one of the worst, not worst, but one of the things that could be changed and unfair when we don't control a lot of those when they discharge us, not traditionally and not like a lot of people. I don't think they churn, which I believe is, you know, one of the reasons why they wanted to stop it. And there's a lot of things out our control. I mean, if I look at our business, the first thing we always do with every client every 6 months is repricing with their current lender. I mean, there's not an idea to take them to another lender. It's under best interest, we try and get them the best rate with their lender. If their lender's not prepared to do that, then we will show them that. So that's probably one of the things that I find very frustrating with the industry. And hopefully, you know, I've been told that Sam White and all the powers to be are looking as doing that. The other thing that some of the time of getting information from lenders in regard to your own, not your own clients, the clients that you've introduced to them, I find frustrating that we're on the phone, you're sitting on call centres for a couple of hours. I know the likes of Commonwealth Bank, Bankwest, ING have now moved to an online portal that we can get, which again will make our job a lot easier, and it looks a lot more transparent from it. The last probably point is it's us and them. Sometimes you feel the conflict in the branches, and I do to the broker staff, and I know that it has been changing and has got a lot better, but that was probably something that was big in the beginning. Why you're going through a broker when you're going through us, and you know the comments that were passed on. But I think that has been eroded in the industry, but it was something at the beginning that was always a bugbear for us.
Yeah, I actually find that really interesting. I mean, we do a annual survey, the third-party lending report, and we ask brokers to give us feedback on how the lenders are performing, and channel conflict is one of the attributes we ask brokers to rate on. And that's been falling, pretty much every year for the past few years, which is good to see. Obviously, with the refinancing situation at the moment, some of that might have spiked a little bit this year. We'll have to wait and see what the report looks like. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. Are there any other sort of bugbears that you'd like fixed, or conversely, anything that you think broking does really well?
I think broking and yeah, everyone that I talk to, I think the customer is our number one priority, and I think that's the most important. And we value our clients more than anyone else, any other industry I've seen. I know financial planning do, but I think the mortgage guys really and girls really look after their clients. And you know, I read at the advisor and all the podcasts, and generally everyone that you hear, you know, really passionate about their clients and want to look after them, and they're doing it for the right reason. That's one of the things I love about broking. You know, you can actually feel in their family, you feel part of the family, you're helping them reach their goals. You get to know the children, you get to know, I think it's just a fantastic industry to step into and help support people that need it. And, you know, whether they live in the western suburbs or the eastern suburbs, they all like guidance. And I think you give them a strategy and they adapt to it and they follow it and they get their place or get their investment property. It's a fantastic feeling. And that's what make you get up every morning and go to work.
Yeah. And of course, you're taking on a lot of emotion as you travel through that journey with them. It's always important, I think, to talk about, you know, well, how do you, I suppose, equalize? How do you unpack from the stress or unpack from, you know, like people's just emotion on you all the time? Do you do anything particularly to look after your mental health or unwind, de-stress?
Yeah, it's probably something I was never good at as being a typical male. You know, take the stress on himself. But I've learned over the years you can't do it and you need to communicate. And I think as a bloke, it's hard for me to say communicate. And I feel down. But I've got some really close mates. We've got a great team with me, and even the younger boys, they make you laugh. And when you complain, they don't understand a lot of what you're going on about, but they make you laugh about it. And I think the big thing that I do is try and get out of the office at least 3 days a week. By 5 o'clock, go and have a run or a swim. Enjoy my ocean swimming. I love my running. That's the big thing. And on the weekend, I've made a passion that I'm not going to take a phone call. If a client rings me and says, hey, I'm an auction, etc., I understand that's an exception to the rule, but I try not to do any appointments on a Saturday now and Sunday and just spend that with family. And I love my lawn. One of my big things, my garden is a bit of a passion. I can put my headphones on or my AirPods and get out there and cut my lawn, and I find that's a great release for me as well.
Yeah, I love lawn mowing. I feel like when I bought this house last year, I was like so excited about having a lawn. I was like, I just love to lawn mow. Such a loser. I always got actually laughed at by the delivery men when they came to deliver the furniture. My husband was just stood there and I was mowing the lawn. They were like, what are you doing? She's doing it. I was like, excuse me, I'm an independent woman and I can mow my own lawn.
I love that.
Anyway, when we talk about, I guess, the next phases for IFA Mortgages, so you're very busy anyway. Have you got anything on the horizon for 2023 or early 2024?
For the business, I'd like to keep pushing into the commercial space a little bit further, asset finance. I'd like to train up some more of the brokers. I'm at a point now where, 57, I'm looking at transition to retirement, whether that's 5 years, whether it's 7 years. But it's introducing my clients and the clients I deem into the younger staff, which we've been doing, and I think that's important. I'd like to grow the business a little bit more, and we've talked about helping some of the single advisors out there that want to be a one-man band, that would like to get some support either through back office, etc., to try, because I realise how tough they're doing it for. That's one of the aspects that I like, and mentoring along the way is something that really, really I'm passionate about. Yeah,
it sounds like you love teaching people the ropes and like getting them up to standard to being great brokers. Is that something that you kind of fell into, or is that something that you actually went and did just out with the sort of necessity of hiring someone? I
suppose that my father and my sister and my brother are all school teachers, and I think I'm a frustrated school teacher at the point of time. So no, I really enjoy teaching people. Like, I've been involved in cricket programs, teaching young kids and touch football, etc. But I just like passing my skill set on to someone and doing it the way that I like to do it, and seeing the rewards and getting them to understand. And my father has always said to me, people know that 1 times 1 is 1 or 2 by 2, but they don't understand the mathematics behind it. And he used to bring these 2 oranges out and 2 apples and add them together, and that gives you 4, son. That's what 4 is. And that's what I try to teach the kids today, the young adults that we have, that why they're doing it, what's it mean, what's the end result, so they understand. And hopefully that passion that I have will be passed on to them. And it has. It's worked, because it's the culture in the business is unreal. It's second to none. It keeps me young, but also they're understanding and they like helping people. There's no one ever put the phone down and go, that bloody client or whatever. Yeah. They're always positive, and that's what I love.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Let's all go work for IFA Mortgages. That sounds great. Just before I let you go then, Anthony, I'd love to know your top tips for new brokers. Having mentored lots of people already, what sort of things would you advise that people in their first couple of years, or even just anyone who's looking to succeed in broking, should be doing?
I think the first thing is employ staff, someone to help you, for starters. I know it's hard, but it's always important to have someone to share and someone to fall back on when you need it. I think the other thing is to reviews, look at your existing clients, because a lot of your business will come out of your existing clients and word of mouth and top-ups and all those type of things. And people say to me, oh, yeah, you're doing a 25,000 top-up. But again, I'm putting my name in front of that client. And when I've got a staff member learning, it's a great little spot for them to start, because the clients already know me. They're there learning, and I think that's important to do. I think don't be scared to give your name out and say I'm a mortgage broker and be proud of it. I think that was something that was always, a mortgage broker, because when the bank managers and the bank loans officers were quite predominant. But now, mortgage broker, I think, be proud of it. Tell people you're mortgage broking and how you can help them, etc. And I think they're all saying around the barbecue, people are always telling good experience around, and I'm always happy to say I'm a mortgage broker. Can I help you, etc. And I think getting involved in the community is the best way to do it as well. I'm part of the Matraville precinct and I've been involved in cricket and touch football, and I've always talked to people and enjoy being out there and having discussions with people and listening. And I think that's the big thing. If you listen, people always come to you
Yeah.
and ask for advice.
Oh, well, that's great. Great tips there. And I think if there's anything that you kind of think that, helps you as a existing broker get to the next level, is there anything that you did that you're like, you know what, that was brilliant and I'm so glad I did it?
I think reviewing our existing clients is probably in repricing, and I think doing little things that your clients don't expect, like with what's happened with the fixed rates and the interest rates movement, bring another staff member on and just repricing our portfolio, and people say, I wasn't expecting that. Thanks for doing that. And I think those little things then prove the worthiness of you as a broker, not just doing the sale, but also the post-settlement and taking them through their life of their loan. I think that's the most important thing you can do, because it's a big journey for a lot of people, and you're there. You're not just a set and forget transaction. And I think that's what they want.
Love it. Anthony O'Flynn from IFA Mortgages, thank you so much for your time today.
It's been a pleasure, Annie, as always. Love to come back again.
Thank you. Well, in a few years' time, maybe we'll pick your brain and come bring you back in. I'll actually link in the show notes as well the podcast that we did with Anthony and Luke a few years back, if you want to take a listen to that, and find out a little bit more about how that dynamic works too. But yeah, really appreciate your time, and congratulations again for being Editor's Choice Award 2023 for New South Wales ACT. If you've got any questions for me or for Anthony, then do feel free to reach out. You can reach me at editor@theadvisor.com.au and Anthony at IFA Mortgages. I'm sure he'll be happy to help. Just thrown him under the bus there. He didn't even know I was going to do that. I was like, he'll talk to you, sure. And if you've got any other questions around, if you've got any questions around the judging process, you can find that on the Better Business Awards 2023 for all the other award winners from earlier this year. We will be talking to the Editor's Choice Awards 2023 winners across the next few weeks, so do keep an eye out for those. And in the meantime, we hope you have a fabulous week. We'll catch you next time on the Advisor Podcast Network.